Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is OGBANJE Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. So today our lecture is titled The History of Multinational Corporations. The History of Multinational Corporations. Now, multinational corporations is a giant private business firm or company with its headquarters in the parent country and subsidiaries operating in more than one state. The multinational corporations means ownership of manufacturing plants and resource extraction, processing operations, supply of services, real estate, retail, wholesale, banking, telecommunications, etc. Now, modern multinational corporations are at the forefront of the movement of investment capital, private loan, technology, and market ideology. According to Aja Boraja, in his Fundamentals of Political Economy and International Economic Relations, he asserts that multinational corporations carry out business activities across national boundaries. According to him, they have become economic Goliath. They operate in both developed and developing countries. Now, multinational corporations extremely are very powerful and influential as they possess resources far in excess of most of the members of the United Nations. Now, before we talk about the history of multinational corporations, let us take a little while to actually look at the features, the characteristics of multinational corporations. Now, according to Patrick Henneck, 1986, in his work Freedom in the Grave, the following are the characteristics of multinational corporations. Number one is ownership. It says of the 50 largest multinational corporations, in the world, nearly half have their headquarters in the US. Now the rest being in West Germany, Japan, the UK, Italy, France, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. Number two, employment. In terms of employment, the number of people multinational corporations employ are smaller than a country's workforce. But in terms of geographical spread and financial resources, the multinational corporations are much larger than a country. Now, another feature is profit maximization. Now, multinational corporations are not charitable organizations. Therefore, they are in the market, for profit, maximization. As such, according to Aja Boraja, they are predatory octopus capable of reaching out through its tentacles to grab and swallow a smaller fish. They, according to Hennig, do not conform to the principles of free market espoused by the classical economists because they are both, the sellers, and they determine the sellers and how much it is sold. So that is actually number three. Then number four, decision making. I'm talking about the number fourth characteristics of multinational corporations. Decision making. Now, policy control of most multinational corporations originates from the parent countries and flows through subsidiaries or affiliates. Now, they have a large pool of management talents, financial assets, and technical resources, and they run their gigantic operations with a coordinated global strategy. According to Hennig, 1986, all important policy decisions on pricing, innovation, profit level, new investment, and location are not taken locally in Africa, but at the distant head office of the parent firm, which subordinates every aspect of local company operations to strict financial scrutiny and control, using an armory of checking devices, to ensure that every activity contributes to profit maximization. At this point, let me look at the history of multinational corporations. So we have come back to the topic of the day, the history of multinational corporations. Now, historically, the roots of multinational corporations date back, to Europe's great trading companies. Now, it started prominently with the Dutch East India, with the Dutch East India Company, India Trading Company in 1689. Let me take that again. That multinational corporations started prominently with the Dutch East India Trading Company, which started operation in 1689. In the 19th century, industrial revolution and capitalism in Europe, actually made export of capital and productive technology to pre-industrial territories of Africa and Latin America, which were actually championed by the biggest industrial powers, notably Britain, France, Germany, and Italy. In the early 20th century, the US sought out competition of the European economy in the export of productive technology and foreign investment. Now, such American predators, which were the big ones in the multinational corporations, were the Singer sewing machine, Otis elevator, and General Electric. Now, the growth of multinational corporations declined, in the First and Second World War period. That is from 1914 to 1918, which is the First World War, and of course, 1939 to 1945, which actually was a period of the Second World War. Between 1945 and 1970, multinational corporations increased foreign direct investment venture by 10% annually. In the 1980s, the multinational corporations of the US, Japan, and the European countries increased fierce crisscrossing foreign direct investment strategies. Now, in a globalized economy since the 1990s, international production occasioned more by the multinational corporations outside their home country of the firm, that is outside the home country of the firm, has been dramatic. Now, multinational corporations affiliates are now, by some estimates, worth double the value of world exports. What have I talked about? What I've actually talked about is the fact that multinational corporations actually have certain features. And some of the features that I talked about are, I said, not in the, not in the way it was actually said. Was one, decision making. The second is ownership. The third is profit maximization. The fourth is, employment. The fifth is, I've talked about ownership, profit maximization. I've also talked about decision making. The sixth is that, they have large capital base. Okay. I've also talked about, transfer of technology. All of these are actually, the features of multinational corporations. I also talked about, the history of multinational corporations, and also started by looking at the first company that actually brought about multinational corporations. And I actually mentioned the name to be uh, Dutch East India Trading Company. Dutch East Indian Trading Company, which was established in 1689. And I told you that contemporary multinational corporations became became fierce in their operation since the Industrial Revolution in a place called Lancashire in the United Kingdom. Okay, so ever since that time, multinational corporations started growing in leaps and bounds, but slowed down during the First and the Second World War. But after those two wars, it actually went viral. Okay, so those are actually the characteristics and the history of multinational corporations. Thank you very much.